Hello everyone, let's begin the motion. In this video, we'll be talking about the introduction of the motion as well as we'll talk about the position. So as usual, take out your notebook and pen and wherever you require, you can pause this video for making your notes. At the end of this video, you'll get one checkpoint for the conceptual practice. You can try all those questions and their answers can be verified at the end of this video. So let's begin. Here you can see two words from the Sanskrit language, Charaivati, Charaivati. What does it mean? Keep on moving, keep on moving. So this is my message from this video. Let's go deeper into the topic. Let me ask you one question. Why motion is so important? What is your opinion? Post your answer in the comment box. The answer is life is motion. Think about it. Without motion, there is no life. Actually, the entire universe is in motion. From the smallest scale of the electrons, atoms to the largest scale of the galaxies, the things are moving. For example, the electrons are moving around the nucleus. The earth is orbiting around the sun. The sun is moving in our Milky Way galaxy and the galaxies are rushing apart. The universe is expanding. Getting it? Take the other examples. There are the currents of the water which are in motion. There are the currents of the air. We walk, we run, we do the jogging, we dance. Sometimes just for fun, we travel from one location to another location. Getting my point? The blood courses through our veins. The air we breathe in and breathe out. The motion is involved in all parts of life. That's why it is truly important. It took nearly 2000 years. Yes, 2000 years to master the concepts of the motion. So you should take few hours to master this topic at least. That will be a good investment for this chapter as well as the upcoming chapters, because in physics, the motion will be a central theme in many chapters. For example, in this chapter, we'll be talking about the motion along a straight line. Then next chapter, we'll be talking about the motion in the two-dimensional space, the motion of a boat in a river, the wind airplane problems like this. In next chapter, we'll be talking about the projectile motion, the things which are moving on the parabolic trajectory. Then we'll talk about the circular motion. The particles are moving over a circular path. Then there will be oscillatory and vibratory motion, to and fro motion about the stable equilibrium position. Then we'll talk about the motion of the atoms or molecules under the heading kinetic theory of gases. Then there will be the motion of the charges in the electric field or magnetic field. Then there will be the motion of charges inside the wires. We call that as electric current. If I am able to record this video, it is because of the help of the charges moving inside the recording device. And you are able to watch this video again with the help of the charges moving inside your device. They are supplying the current to the device. Getting it? The mastery of the motion has been critical for our survival and the success as a species. So, I am defining the three major types of the motion. Number one is the rotational motion. Number two is the oscillation or vibration. And number three is the translational motion. The word rotational motion means the change in the orientation of the given object. For example, you can see this London Eye. There are the spokes which are connecting the center of the London Eye to the circular periphery of the London Eye. Now these spokes, if you focus over them, are they changing their orientation? Some moment there is a spoke which is exactly vertical. After some time that spoke becomes inclined like this. Again, after some time, that spoke becomes inclined like this, then like this, then like this, and that spoke completes the entire circle. This spoke is actually performing the rotational motion because its orientation is changing over the period of time. Getting my point? Example of the oscillation. Focus over the water. Are there few boats which are oscillating? You can see them very clearly. Oscillation means to and fro motion about the stable equilibrium position. Then there comes the translational motion. If all the particles of a body are having the same change in the position, then we say they are performing the translational motion. Here you can see few boats. These boats are crossing the river and all the particles of that boat, they are having the same change in the position. If the front part of the boat is moving by the 100 meter in some direction, then the rear part of the boat is also moving by 100 meter in the same direction. That is true for any part of the boat. So all parts of that boat are having the same change in the position. This kind of motion is known as the translatory motion. Getting it? You can note down the things up to here and then we'll proceed further. For translational motion, we have three major parts in our syllabus. Number one is the linear motion. It means motion in a straight line or motion along one dimension. For example, if a car is moving along a straight highway, that motion will be counted as the linear motion, rectilinear motion or motion in one dimension. Then there comes the projectile motion. If we kick a football and it moves over a parabolic trajectory, its motion will be counted as the projectile motion. That motion happens in a two-dimensional plane. And the third part of the translational motion is the circular motion. If we take a stone and tie it with the thread and we keep on revolving it, then the motion of that stone is the circular motion. Note it down. Here you can see a chart for the classical mechanics. In the classical mechanics, we study about the effects of the forces on various kind of objects. And one assumption we consider here in the classical mechanics, that the speed of the objects is very small as compared to the speed of light in the vacuum. The classical mechanics is divided primarily into two branches, the statics and dynamics. In the statics, we study the effect of the forces when the objects are stationary or at rest. And in the dynamics, we study the effect of the forces when the objects are in motion. This dynamics is again divided in two parts, kinematics and kinetics. Kinematics is the study of the motion without knowing the cause of the motion, and kinetics means the study of motion which involves the cause of the motion. Getting it? In this chapter, we will be focusing only on the kinematics. It means we'll be talking about the motion without knowing its cause. We'll take up the daily life objects such as a car, such as a person, such as a bus, and we'll talk about few questions like as whether the particle speeds up or slows down, changes its direction, takes how much interval of time to complete its journey. Such kind of things we will be dealing in this and upcoming videos. Getting my point? Let's move ahead. To gain the deeper insight of the topic, let's go through few important points. Number one, the motion is always relative. For example, let's say you are sitting in this train. Relative to you, what you will say about the seats of the train, they are stationary or they are in motion? Post your answer in comment box. According to you, the seats of the train are stationary. Now, suppose there is someone who is outside this train, standing on the field For that person, the train is in motion and the seats of the train, they are also in the motion. So, according to some observer, the same seat is at rest, and according to some other observer, the same seat is in motion. Taking another interesting example, suppose you are watching this video while sitting on your sofa. According to you, the sofa is in motion or at rest? The answer is simple, the sofa is at rest. Now, if the same question is asked to some astronaut who is right now in the International Space Station, according to that astronaut, the sofa in your home is at rest or is in motion? According to that astronaut, entire earth is in motion. The sofa, your home, your city, everything is in motion. So the same sofa, according to you, is at rest, and the same sofa, according to some astronaut in the International Space Station, is in motion. The motion is always relative. Getting my point? Keep in mind, there is nothing like absolute rest or absolute motion. The motion is always relative to some observer. Next important point, if with respect to some observer, the position of the object is not changing, it means that object is at rest. For example, right now, if I am some observer and I look at the board, with respect to me, is the position of this board changing? No. It means for me, the board is at rest. Getting it? Next important point, the path along which the object moves is known as the trajectory. The trajectory of an object might be straight line, might be parabolic, might be circular, might be elliptical, or something random or complex. Few of these trajectories will learn into the upcoming chapters. Next important point, there is no meaning of the motion without the observer. Next important point, the observer means the person who is observing the motion, or mathematically the origin of the coordinate system is taken as the observer. We get the idea about the frame of reference by reading the language carefully. For example, if a car is moving with a speed of 30 km per hour and the trees are at rest, can you spot the reference frame in this question, in this language? The answer is the surface of earth. Car is moving at a speed of 30 km per hour with respect to the surface of earth, and the trees are at rest with respect to the surface of earth. Usually, if nothing is mentioned in the question, we take the surface of the earth to be our reference frame for solving the problems. Getting it? Note it down. Next important point, to make our calculations simple, a purely translating object may be modeled as a particle. The particle has no shape, no size, no front, no back, no left, no right, no up, no down. It is just for our mathematical convenience. For example, if we want to study the motion of the earth around the sun, we can consider the earth to be a particle, because for this kind of elliptical motion, we are not interested into the inner structure of the earth. Getting my point? Now, if we want to study the hurricanes, if we want to study the tides, if we want to study the earthquakes, then we cannot model the earth as a point like particle. In that case, we have to consider the earth to be an extended object. Getting it? Another example, suppose the wheel is in motion. The center of the wheel is always at rest. So for this kind of rotational motion, you cannot consider the entire wheel as a particle. Only for pure translational motion, an object may be considered as a particle if the inner structure of object is of no use in our calculations, is of no importance for our calculations. Getting it? It's pretty important. Note it down. Next important point is the coordinate system. The coordinate system is an artificial grid which we place over the question. So we can locate the particle very easily. For example, usually we use the Cartesian coordinate system. The x-axis, the y-axis and the z-axis, all three are mutually perpendicular. Then by using the appropriate scales, we can measure the location of the particle in such coordinate system. Okay, coordinate systems are not real. They are just the mathematical construction which we do for our convenience. And different people can define their own different coordinate systems. For example, suppose this downward direction someone want to consider as x-axis and some other person want to consider this as the y-axis. Both are equally correct. The choice of coordinate system totally lies upon the observer. Okay. Then there comes the frame of reference. Frame of reference is something real, something physical. For example, earth could be a frame of reference, the table could be a frame of reference, the road could be a frame of reference, even you or me can be a frame of reference. Frame of reference consists the set of coordinate axes along with a clock. So you can measure the position of the particle as well as you can measure the time. Okay. One important thing here about the time. Can time be negative? Think about it and post your answer in the comment box. For doing calculations in these chapters, can we consider the time to be negative? Or what is the meaning of negative time? The answer is logically beautiful. We can have the negative time in these chapters. Actually, the moment you start the observation, that is generally chosen as t is equal to 0. Then time before that will be considered as the negative time and time after that will be considered as the positive time. For example, suppose you start watching this video at 10 o'clock and you set your clock at t is equal to 0 at that moment of time. So the 9:30 will be counted as a negative time, but the 10:45 will be counted as a positive time. Getting my point? Exactly at 10 o'clock you set your clock at t is equal to 0. Then time before that is negative and time after that is positive. Clear? Let's take a simpler example. Suppose from the origin of the Cartesian coordinate system, if you are moving along the rightwards on the x-axis, then the x coordinates are taken as positive. And if you move along the leftwards of the origin, then the x coordinates are taken as negative. And if you stand at the origin, then x coordinate is 0. So I hope you get the meaning of the 0, negative and positive. This all we define for our mathematical convenience. Getting it? Note it down, then we'll go further. Now let's start the rectilinear motion or motion in one dimension or linear motion or motion along a straight line. By definition, if something is moving along a straight line, then its motion is known as the rectilinear motion or motion in one dimension. For example, you look at this rocket. After liftoff, this rocket is moving along a vertical straight line. So its motion is counted under the rectilinear motion. Another example, look at this apple falling from a tree. It's going over a straight line. So its motion is also rectilinear motion. Look at this video taken from the drone. These cars, few of them are performing the rectilinear motion or motion along a straight line. Can you identify which cars are performing the rectilinear motion in this video? Okay, great. Let's go further. The word motion in one dimension means the particle is moving along a straight line. This straight line may be horizontal, may be vertical, or may be slanted. Let's take few examples. Example number 1. Here you can see a bee and this bee is moving horizontally. Can you call this motion to be the one dimensional? Correct. Along the motion of the bee, you can define your horizontal axis. There is a straight line motion. So it's 1D motion. It's okay for everyone. Second example, this B is moving along the vertical axis. Is this motion 1D? Correct. This motion is one dimensional. You can define a straight line along the vertical axis and then the B is moving along that straight line, so its motion is one dimensional motion. Third example, this B is moving along the face diagonal of this cube. Now you tell, this motion is one dimensional or two dimensional or three dimensional. Pause the video here and post your answer in comment box. The correct answer is the motion of B is one dimensional only. Yes, what you can do, along the diagonal, you can define your x-axis like this. You can define your horizontal axis like this. I told you that defining the coordinate system is up to our convenience. You people might have that misconception that x is only this direction always. It is wrong. If you wish, you can take this direction as the x, you can take this direction as the x. The choice lies entirely upon us. So in all these three cases, the motion of the B is 1D only. If you have yet any misconception, you can post your doubt in the comment box. I'll reply. Next interesting example. You can see that B moves initially horizontally and then it goes vertical. Now the motion of B is 1D, 2D or 3D? The correct answer is this time the motion of B is two-dimensional, because if you define your coordinate system like this, then B is initially moving along the x-axis and then that B is going along the y-axis. This motion of the B can be captured in a plane but cannot be captured in a straight line. So it's a two-dimensional motion. Here is a nice trick. If a motion can be captured along a straight line, it will always be 1D motion. If a motion can be captured in a plane but cannot be captured in a straight line, it will always be a 2D motion. And if a motion cannot be captured in a plane, it will be a 3D motion. Take the next example. Look at this B. Now its motion will be the three-dimensional motion. Getting my point? Now you can answer the opening question of this video. A hill has a uniform slope and a person is moving down. So the motion of that person is 1D, 2D or 3D? The correct answer is motion of that person is one-dimensional, 1D. Why? You can tell it with the trick also, or you can draw the diagram for the clarification purpose. Suppose this person has the speed v in this direction. Okay. Now you can define your x-axis here like this. I told you that defining the coordinate axis depend upon us. It is for our mathematical convenience, and this is the y direction. The trick says that we can capture the motion of this person along a straight line. Down the incline, you can draw a straight line and the motion of the person can be captured along that line. It means its motion will be only one-dimensional. I hope you get this. How many of you got the correct answers? I appreciate you. And those who are not getting the correct answer, I even appreciate them. You tried and you learned. The trick is super. Okay, note it down, then we'll go further. Here is the next question for you. Look at these three particles. What you can say about their motion? Performing the 1D motion or 2D motion or 3D motion? Quickly post your answer in comment box. The answer is simple. All these particles are performing the 1D motion. Why? Because along every particle you can show a straight line. The motion of all these particles can be captured along a straight line. Suppose first particle is going like this, then you can define a straight line here. its motion can be captured along this straight line. So it's the 1D motion example. The second particle is going like this. Can you capture its motion along a straight line? Yes. It means this is also case of 1D motion. And the third one is going like this. Its motion can also be captured along this straight line. So this is also the example of 1D motion. Okay. Note it down. Then we'll take up the next question. Here is the next interesting question. We know the constant velocities of three individual particles and we need to define their type of motion, 1D, 2D or 3D. Simple question. Post your answer in the comment box. The correct answer is they all are performing the 1D motion. Do not get confused with the coordinate systems. This is a constant velocity along I cap, means along x-axis only. So obviously this is a 1D motion, no doubt in that. Second, 2I cap plus 3J cap. This motion is happening in a plane, but can it be captured along a straight line in that plane? Think about it. In that xy plane, along a straight line this particle is moving. So this is also the case of 1D motion, and same is with this one also. For example, suppose in your room from one corner to the farthest possible diagonally opposite corner, can a fly go straight? Yes. For that fly, the x coordinate, y coordinate and z coordinates, all coordinates will change. But along the straight diagonal, can we capture that motion? So that motion will be taken as the 1D motion. It's a very good thing. X, y, z, all coordinates can change. Even then particle may perform the one-dimensional motion. Few people have misconception about these things. They think all the three coordinates are changing, so the motion must be 3D. No. I am repeating the trick again. If the motion can be captured along a straight line, it will be 1D motion. If a motion cannot be captured along a straight line, but can get captured in a plane, it will be 2D motion. And if a motion cannot get captured in a plane, that will be 3D motion. For example, a kite is flying in the sky. What will be the nature of its motion? It will be three-dimensional motion. The kite will go here and there. You cannot capture its motion along a straight line. You cannot capture its motion along a plane. The kite will keep on changing its position in the sky. It will keep on changing its planes. Getting my point? Take the other example. You hit a striker on the carom board. Then the motion of the striker can be captured in the plane of that carom. Getting my point? So the motion of the striker will be a case of two-dimensional motion. And if I release the marker like this, what was the nature of the motion? 1D, 2D or 3D? Fire up the chat box. The correct answer will be the one-dimensional motion. Getting it? Because that motion can be captured along a straight line. Getting? Okay. Note it down. Then we'll go further. Here is the condition for motion along a straight line or motion in one dimension. If we know the three position vectors and someone asks us about the motion of the particle, then you should check for this condition. Whenever this condition is getting satisfied, the particle will always be moving along a straight line. If you look carefully at this condition, what do you observe? The LHS and RHS of this condition, they are actually unit vectors, and these two unit vectors are pointing in the same direction because there is sign of equality. I hope you get my message. If the particle is continuously moving in the same direction, then its motion will be along one dimension only. It will be rectilinear motion only. Okay, it's important one. Note it down. Here is the last topic of this video, the position. Suppose someone asks a question, where is the location of the particle at this instant of time? The answer to that question will be known as the position. You can see here a Cartesian coordinate system, and there is a point P located in the three-dimensional space. The coordinates of point P are x, y, z. And the observer has the coordinates 0, 0, 0. It means observer is the at origin. Okay. Now, the position vector with respect to the origin is x minus 0 inside a bracket multiplied with the I cap plus y minus 0 inside a bracket multiplied with the j cap plus z minus 0 inside a bracket multiplied with the k cap. This position vector in simple terms can be written as xi cap plus yj cap plus zk cap. I hope you get it. Looking at this formula, we can say that position is a vector quantity and it can be positive or it can be negative or can be zero. For example, if the particle is located at the origin itself, let's say the point P I bring to origin, what will be its position vector? It will be 0. Let's say particle is having the position only on the x-axis at a distance of 5 cm from the origin. Then its position vector will be positive or negative. Obviously, the particle is having the positive x coordinate, so its position vector will be positive only. Getting it? Suppose the same particle is located at another position in a new case at the minus y-axis, at the negative y-axis, and it is 4 cm below the origin. Then what will be the position vector of the particle, positive or negative? Since the particle is located on the negative y-axis, so its position vector will be negative. I hope you get this, that position vector of a particle may be positive, may be negative, or may be 0. Anything. Position is a frame dependent quantity. For example, if I am the observer and this is the object, the position of this object is behind me. But if you are the observer, the board is in front of you. The same object has the different position vectors. Getting it? For me, the object might be 1 centimeter backside, but for you, the object might be many kilometers away. So for you, the position vector of object, means the board, is different, and for me, the position vector of the board is different. And to some astronaut in the International Space Station, the position vector of this board will be again different. So position is a frame dependent quantity. Next, the SI unit of the position vector is meter. Whenever we will be measuring the position in the physics, its unit will be in meter. It's the international standard. Next important point, the dimensional formula of the position vector is given as mass to power 0, length to power 1 and time to power 0. Here capital M is indicating the mass, capital L is indicating the length, and capital T is indicating the time. Third important point, if position of a particle is not changing with respect to the observer, it means the particle is at rest. For me, the position of the board is not changing. It means the board is at rest with respect to me. Getting it? Next, if the position of the particle is changing with respect to the observer, it means the particle is in motion. It can happen in both ways. Either the particle is moving or the observer is moving, or both are moving. For example, if I am coming forward then for me, the board will appear to go where? In which direction? Can you tell? When I am coming forward, for me, the board will appear to go backward. Getting it? The position time graph may start anywhere. The slope of position versus time graph gives the instantaneous velocity. If the acceleration is constant and the position versus time graph is a parabola mouth opening upward, it indicates that acceleration is positive. And if acceleration is constant and the position versus time graph is a parabola mouth opening downward, it indicates that the acceleration is negative. Next, the maxima or minima in position versus time graph indicates the turning point. It's very important. Last important point. In classical mechanics, at a given instant of time, a particle cannot be at two different locations. You note down all these things. I'll explain the details. Let's take an example. The coordinates of a particle in a right-handed Cartesian coordinate system are given as 3 meter, 2 meter, 5 meter. Write its position vector. Post your answer in comment box. It's a simple question and the answer is also pretty simple. Its position vector with respect to the origin, because nothing was mentioned in the question, we will set up the observer on the origin itself. So the answer will be 3i cap plus 2j cap plus 5k cap, this all in bracket multiplied with the meter. I hope you all got it correct. Okay, now we'll see the details of the position versus time graph. You note down up to here. The graphs contain all the information about the motion. So we'll be taking up numerous different types of position versus time graphs and we'll be extracting out the information. Okay, here is the first graph on the screen. We have a position versus time graph. The moment we start the observation, let's say we settle that moment as t is equal to 0. So at t is equal to 0, the position of the particle is, let's say, p naught. After some time, at the moment of time t1, if we again check, the position of particle is yet p naught. At next moment of time t2, let's say we again check, then the particle's position is p naught again. So as the time is changing, the position of the particle is constant. What does it indicate? Particle is at rest. If the position of particle is not changing with respect to observer, it means that particle is at rest. The velocity of this particle will be 0, and that you can deduce by the slope of position versus time graph. If you take the slope at any point of this graph, that slope will come out to be 0. Acceleration of this particle is 0. There is no velocity, there is no acceleration. Getting it? So particle is always at rest. Note down these informations, then we'll be taking up the next graph. Here is the second graph. At t is equal to 0, the position of particle is at the origin itself. Okay. Then we go to the next moment of time, let's say t1. At the moment of time t1, let's say the position of the particle is p1. Then at the next moment of time t2, let's say the position of particle is p2. You get this thing? Okay. Now, as the time is increasing, we can say that particle is moving away from the origin. We can check these different positions easily. Another information what we can extract, the slope of this position versus time graph at any moment of time is always constant and that slope is positive. It means velocity of this particle is positive and always constant. If velocity is constant, it means the acceleration is 0, and such kind of motion is known as the uniform motion. Okay. Note down these informations, then we'll be taking up the third graph. Here is the third position versus time graph. If you wish, you can pause and you can try to extract out all the information. I am doing that here. Suppose the moment of time t1, the position of the particle we indicate as, let's say, p1. This t1 time is positive or negative? It's on the left side of the origin. This t1 time is actually negative. What do you mean by the negative time? The moment you start observation, the time intervals before that are taken as negative. Earlier we had the talk. If you start the observation at 10 o'clock, then 9:30 will be counted as the negative time and 10:45 will be taken as the positive time. Okay. So time can be negative on these graphs. There is no issue. At time t1, the position of the particle is p1. Then at next moment of time t2, the position of the particle is, let's say, p2. We can see one thing, that particle is coming closer to the origin. Then at time t3, the position of particle becomes 0. It means particle crosses the origin. Getting it? At time t4, the position of particle is negative. And then for next moment of time, the position of particle is indicated here. Then for next moment of time, position of particle is indicated here. Means the particle is moving away from the origin. So up to which moment of time the particle was coming closer to the origin? Post your answer in comment box. Correct. Up to the t3, the particle was coming closer to the origin, and after t3, the particle is continuously moving away from the origin. Getting it? Another information, if we look at the slope of this line, it's constant everywhere. Okay, and this slope is negative. It means velocity of this particle will be negative as well as constant. If velocity is negative and constant, it means the acceleration of particle must be 0. So this is a graph for the uniform motion. Clear? Note down all these informations, then we'll jump to the next graph. Here is the next position versus time graph. What information you can extract from this? Post your opinion in the comment box. Let's see the things. At this moment of time, the position of the particle is 0. Understand this thing? Means particle is at the origin. Now, as the time is increasing, you can see we will have the position here. Then after some time, the position will be here. At next moment of time, the position will be here. It means particle is continuously going away from the origin. Getting it? At this moment of time, it was crossing the origin, and after that it is continuously going away from the origin. The slope of this position versus time graph is always positive and constant. It means velocity of this particle is always positive and constant. If velocity is constant, means the acceleration will be 0. So this motion will be the uniform motion. Getting all the information? Okay. Note it down. Then we'll go to the next graph. Here is the next graph, and it's super important. If you wish, you can pause the video here and you can try to extract out all the informations from this position versus time graph. I am writing the informations here. The moment we start the observation, that moment we take as t is equal to 0. So the particle is at the origin at t is equal to 0. This is the first information. Then if we look at this moment of time, the velocity of the particle can be obtained by taking the slope of this graph, and the slope here is positive. Even after certain moment of time, if you check the slope here, this is again positive. Getting it? And when we reach to this position, at this position, the slope of the graph becomes 0. The slope of position time graph becomes 0. It indicates what? The velocity of particle is 0 here. So at time t1, the instantaneous velocity of particle is 0. Before time t1, the slope was positive, and after time t1, the slope is negative. So velocity here is positive, then becomes 0, and then velocity becomes negative. Actually, this is a turning point in the graph. You remember the trick? The maxima or minima in position versus time graph indicates the turning point. Around this moment of time, particle is turning back. Okay. Then if we check here, the velocity is again negative. We check here, the slope or the velocity is again negative. So after t1, the velocity is continuously directed in the negative direction. Okay. How to visualize this scenario? Can you think of some practical situation? I have an idea. Suppose we consider a tower here and someone is throwing a ball upwards from this tower. Okay. At t is equal to 0, this ball is given some initial velocity v, and we are setting up the origin here at the initial level of the ball. The upward direction we consider as positive, downward direction we consider as negative. Acceleration due to gravity is indicated by g. Okay. Now moment t is equal to 0, particle is at the origin. Done. So t is equal to 0, particle is crossing the origin. Then the particle will go up, and while going up, its velocity will be taken as positive. So if you check here, the slope is positive, means the velocity is positive. And for this interval of time, after t is equal to 0 and just before t1, the particle is continuously moving away from the origin. Let's say at t1, particle reaches here. At this moment of time, we know that velocity of particle is 0. Okay. It is the instantaneous velocity we are talking about. Now, after this moment, the ball will fall down. Then from t1 to this moment of time, the particle is coming closer to the origin, and that we can see here. Let's say if you check this moment of time, the position is here. You check this moment of time, the position is here. So particle is coming closer to the origin. Okay, fine. Now, for this particle, there comes a moment t2. At t2, the particle will be again here at the same position while falling down. Understand this thing? And after the moment t2, particle will continue its journey in the downward direction, then velocity will be negative, that you can check. And after moment t2, it is again going away from the origin. Okay. One question I would like to ask you. According to this graph, at which moment of time the particle is farthest away from the origin, the initial position? At t1, the particle is farthest away from the origin. Second question, how many times the particle turns? The answer is 1. This graph has one maxima. Particle is turning for one time. Getting it? Third important thing, if someone asks you about the acceleration of this particle, then acceleration is always negative, because a parabola mouth opening downward for a position versus time graph indicates a constant negative acceleration. Getting it? Fourth important point, this motion is uniform or non-uniform? The answer is non-uniform motion, because the velocity is changing continuously. Okay. You can note it down, then we'll be taking up the next graph. Here is the next important graph. You may pause the video here and try to extract out the information from this position versus time graph. Give it a try. This is related to a physical situation that I am explaining here. Suppose we have a pendulum, and for that pendulum, this is the moment t is equal to 0. The pendulum is released. We consider the rightward direction to be positive and the leftward direction to be negative. And here we set up the origin. Okay. The moment we release the pendulum, at that moment t is taken to be 0. So here is the time equal to 0. And at that moment, the velocity of pendulum will be 0. You can check here. The slope of this graph here is 0. Slope 0 means velocity 0. Okay. Then the pendulum is moving in this direction. Moving in this direction means the velocity must be negative. And you can check the slope of graph here. For this part of the graph, the slope at any point is negative, so the velocity will be negative. Then there comes the time, let's say t1. This is the moment t1. At t1 moment, the pendulum crosses the origin, so the position is at the origin. Getting it? After t1 moment, the pendulum will move here in this direction, and again the velocity will be negative. So you can check just after t1, if you check the slope at some moment, that slope is yet negative. So after t1, for some moment of time, the velocity is negative. Then there comes the moment t2. For this moment t2, the slope is 0. Slope 0 means the velocity will become 0. It means somewhere here is the moment t2. At t2 moment, the particle will be instantaneously at rest. Okay. After t2 moment, the pendulum will travel back in this direction. So the velocity will become positive, and just after t2, if we check the slope here, then slope is positive means velocity is positive. Then there comes the moment t3. At t3 moment, the pendulum will again cross the origin. After crossing the origin, the pendulum will keep on moving in this direction for some interval of time. So after t3 also, the slope or the velocity is positive. Okay. Then there comes the moment t4. At moment t4, the slope is again 0, means the velocity will be 0. So here might be the moment t4. Velocity will become 0. Why it is not able to reach to this position? You can check. The positions are different at the different intervals of time. Actually, due to the air resistance, the amplitude of oscillation will keep on decreasing. You can try it. Take a pendulum, swing it and release, and then keep on watching at the amplitude. With the passing time, the amplitude of oscillation will keep on decreasing. Suppose you are sitting on a swing and someone gives you a push and then that person walks away. What happens to the amplitude of your oscillation? On that swing, your amplitude of oscillation continuously keep on decreasing because of the air resistance. And after some time, your position will become 0. You will reach at the origin. Okay. Anyways, going further, at the moment t5, the particle is again at the 0 position. So the t5 moment will be again here. Particle is moving in this direction. Now I think you can guess the motion. What will be happening with this pendulum? It will be performing to and fro motion with decreasing amplitude, and after some time it will stop. Getting it? It's a pretty important position versus time graph. Let me ask you one nice conceptual question. Suppose we have the ideal situation. There is no damping. There is no air resistance. How this position versus time graph will look like? Think about it. If there is no damping, it means that the particle will reach back to this position again. So actually all these peaks, they will attain this level. The graph will be then symmetrical. Okay, note it down. Here is the last part and an interesting question. You have to spot the errors in these graphs. There is something wrong in every graph. Try to spot the wrong things in these position versus time graphs and post your opinion in comment box. You may pause the video here and give it a try. Okay, I'm explaining the things. In this graph, at this moment of time, the particle is present at this position, is present at this position, is present at this position. At same moment of time, the particle is present at infinite positions. Can a single particle be present at infinite positions in classical mechanics? It's not feasible. This graph is wrong. Getting it? Take the next one. If you take up this moment of time, then particle is present at this position, and simultaneously the particle is present at this position also. In classical mechanics, a single particle cannot be at two different positions at a given instant of time. So this graph is also wrong. Okay. What's the issue with the third one? This graph is okay up to here, is okay in this part, but the error lies here in this part. You can compare them. At this moment of time, the particle is simultaneously present at many locations, which is not feasible. What's the issue with this graph? At this moment of time, the particle is present here as well as present here, two different positions. Particle cannot acquire. At this moment of time, the particle has this position as well as this position, which is also not permissible. If we look at this graph, at a given moment of time, particle is achieving more than one position, which is again not permissible. Same issue lies with this graph. At a given moment of time, particle has a positive position as well as the particle has a negative position, which is not permissible in classical mechanics. Getting it? So note down these things. This is all about the position from my side. Take care, stay awesome.